Premièrement, les nouveaux tarifs sur l'acier et l'aluminium sont illégaux et injustifiés, une mauvaise idée pour l'industrie et les travailleurs américains et surtout pour l'industrie canadienne. Nous avons des contre-tarifs d'un gros montant. En gros, c'est plus de 90 milliards de dollars des importations américaines. Et nous sommes en train de discussions intensives avec les Américains maintenant. On va prendre un peu de temps, mais pas plus, de répondre. And in English, the latest tariffs on steel and aluminum are unjustified. They're illegal. They're bad for American workers, bad for American industry, and of course for Canadian industry as well. We have counter tariffs in a gross amount before remissions on over 90 billion of U.S. imports. We've acted strong. Those are in place. We will take some time, not much, some time, because we are in intensive discussions right now with the Americans on the trading relationship. Those discussions are progressing. I would note that the American action is a global action. It's not one targeted at Canada. So we will take some time, but not more, before we respond.
Pour réagir aux tarifs rapidement. M. Champagne, pour réagir aux tarifs rapidement.
Bien, vous avez vu la déclaration du premier ministre. Notre première priorité, c'est de se battre contre ces tarifs-là. Vous savez, les choses changent vite dans le monde des tarifs. Alors, notre priorité, c'est clairement d'être là pour se battre contre ces tarifs-là, protéger notre industrie, protéger les travailleurs. C'est ce qu'on fait, c'est ce qu'on va continuer de faire.
Voyez-vous un taco? Est-ce que vous pensez qu'il va y avoir un taco, là?
Ben, moi, comme je dis, notre priorité, c'est vraiment de se battre pour voir ces tarifs-là éliminés. Effectivement, donc c'est ce qu'on fait. Là, vous avez vu, mon collègue, le ministre Leblanc, était à Washington récemment. Donc, on va continuer de faire ça, puis être là pour les travailleurs et les travailleurs. Vous savez, l'industrie de l'aluminium, l'industrie de l'acier, des industries fondamentales à l'avenir, à la prospérité économique du Canada. I would just say, listen, as the Prime Minister said yesterday, our priority is to fight against these tariffs. You know, things change fast in the tariff world, so we're all hands on deck on that. Minister Leblanc was in Washington yesterday. We're working hard and we're fighting against these tariffs, but also to protect our workers in our industry. You know, the steel and aluminum industry is key to Canada's prosperity, and we're going to be there fighting and protecting our workers.
St. Catharines has got to be worried about these tariffs. Can you tell me what the mood likely be in the fab plants in St. Catharines today?
Well, absolutely. It's something we heard at the doors. It's in any manufacturing town across this country. There's a GM plant there. There's auto manufacturing plants throughout Niagara. It's something that's concerning. General Motors is an anchor industry in the Niagara region, and Canadians and residents of St. Catharines voted for this party and to stand up to Donald Trump, and I believe Prime Minister Carney will.
If you were asked, should we be retaliating dollar for dollar? Should we be hitting back with tariffs today? What would be your advice to PM and to Mr. LeBlanc?
Well, I look forward to hearing what the response is in caucus right now. I know the Prime Minister has promised to stand up for Canadian jobs and Canadian industry. I'm not privy to the diplomatic back and forth, but I know him and Minister LeBlanc will stand up for those jobs, and retaliatory tariffs are a big part of that.
What about financial aid? I know the money that's being collected from the retaliatory tariffs. How fast should that flow, and should that go to companies, workers? How do you think that should work?
Well, fundamentally, we need to be protecting workers and standing up for those jobs. That's something that the Prime Minister talked about during the election campaign, and again, we'll see what's said inside the room. So, thank you so much. Take care.
You got some steel fabs in your neck of the woods, steel makers, steel plants.
Yep.
You got some advice about retaliatory tariffs or anything that the PM may want to do in response to what Trump is doing?
I think as long as we use the revenues from the retaliatory tariffs to really help businesses on the ground, that's the key. I think we've got the right things in place so far, and we'll see what we do in the future, but I'm not exactly sure how we're going to, make sure to respond in kind, but I think that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Terry, you got steel farms up in your neck of the woods, and just talk to the camera if you would. What are people saying? Should we be retaliating against these new tariffs? How can we fight back?
Well, ever since the president announced the increase from 25% to 50%, I got on the phone, started emailing, calling, started talking with Melanie Jolie. We had those conversations, talking with local leadership, the CEOs, the unions. Everyone is very concerned, obviously. 25%. We were already working really, really hard on relief, and we knew the steel industry was struggling with 25% with liquidity. So, I've set up some meetings. The steel industry will be here tomorrow. We're going to be meeting, talking about what their needs are. I'm also co-chair of the All-Party Steel Caucus. So Sault Ste. Marie is different than a lot of other major cities where if someone loses a job, if an industry goes down in Northern Ontario, you just don't lose your job, which is a terrible thing. You lose the equity in your home when those industries shutter. So we're not there, but that's always in the back of my mind when we take a look at what's happened in other communities in Northern Ontario. So it's with that kind of tenacity that I attack the situation. They are illegal. These make no sense. They're hurting the Canadian-American relationship terribly. And yes, we're going to continue to make sure that we use all the money that we raise from retaliatory tariffs to support the workers in the industry.
Do you hear from people on the Michigan side? What do they think of this? Like, because I bet we're not going over there shopping anymore.
No. So what people in Sault Ste. Marie and what other border towns are doing is they're standing with steel workers, aluminum workers, and it doesn't even matter if they have that industry in their backyard. What they are doing is they are standing for Canadians and standing strong, and I really appreciate that. And we are getting feedback from the Americans on the other side of the border that are very concerned about their economies because the Canadians are no longer going across. My message to our American friends is don't complain to us. Call your congresspeople, call your representatives, and let them know this is ridiculous, unheard of. I've never seen anything like this. Sure, we had the 25% in 2018, but this is totally, absolutely ludicrous, to say the least.
Is our government pushing back hard enough on this with the remissions that they did, and the exemptions, or whatever you want to call them, to these tariffs, to the retaliatory tariffs in April? Did that weaken our response, and should they reverse those and have a stronger retaliation?
Look, we did this before in 2018, and what we want to make sure is that we have the maximum amount of pain for the American industries and minimize any kind of disruption and unintended consequences on Canadian companies, Canadian communities. So we're doing what we have to do, and we're going to continue to make sure that, as they continue to move and make new announcements, that we respond accordingly. And we'll be
retaliatory tariffs.
Yes, we're going to continue to talk. We're going to continue to talk about that. We got to continue to hit back hard, and I will encourage that, and to make sure that every dollar is used to support my workers and my steel industry. Thank you very much.
Well, we are in a very difficult position, obviously. And so we're going to have to navigate and find a way forward in a way that secures the economy.
What have you heard from workers, industry in your region about this subway?
There's deep anxiety, to say the least. There's no question about that.
What do you make of the new border security bill? There's some concerns about privacy, about what it means for refugee rights, and the fact that it's 140 pages, 16 parts, there's more than almost a dozen departments all at once.
Again, Minister Anandasangaree will speak to it. He's the lead on it. However, as you know, Mark, every bill is given a charter review, so I have no concerns from that perspective. Frankly, considering the context, there's a number of issues at play, but it's not lost on me that just a few days ago, millions of dollars worth of fentanyl was seized by police in my community. So, very confident vote today.
On the Town speech,
Pushing for real movement on this, securing our border, and I think the context calls for that kind of action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minister, on the bill, you tabled yesterday.
Well, if you look at the bill itself, there are safeguards in place. We are a party of the charter, and we believe that the requisite charter protections as well as due process is already embedded into the bill.
Are you open to making changes to the bill if concerns about privacy the omnibus aspect, the sweeping powers. Are you committed to making changes if these concerns persist?
We look forward to a robust debate on this bill. Of course, we'll go through the committee process, and we're always open to engagement and discussions to strengthen the bill for sure.
So you're not trying to fast track it?
Look, just before I deal with some of the questions, or something I was hoping to share with folks this morning. Yesterday, on my way into a cabinet meeting, I made a couple of comments about the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Persons, and despite innocent intentions, I think my comments actually caused hurt and potentially eroded a very precarious trust that has been built up over many years to respect the rights of Indigenous people in this country. And it's essential that we work in partnership with Indigenous partners when it comes to issues that engage their rights and demand the respect of the Crown. I had a call last night after National Chief Woodhouse reached out expressing her frustration, and I told her unequivocally that I wanted to apologize for some of the comments. More specifically, what I should have done when faced with the question that I received was rejecting the premise of the question. The UN Declaration, when it comes to free, prior and informed consent, is about establishing a process based on respect and partnership as between the Crown and Indigenous peoples. I think sometimes the conversation falls into a frankly dangerous trope that paints a false picture of Indigenous peoples as being anti-development somehow. In my experience, engaging with Indigenous leaders, their perspective is one of wanting to have their rights respected and wanting to share in the benefits of development. So as we go forward, whether it's on the major projects initiative we'll be working on or any issue that touches on the rights of Indigenous peoples, I want to be absolutely clear that our desire is to work in partnership, and at every stage of the process, from project selection to conditions that may be imposed, we're going to engage, properly consult, and work in partnership to respect the rights of Indigenous people.
Do you still believe that it's not a veto?
I think today and going forward, I think I've learned my lesson yesterday. I need to be very clear that we need to reject the premise of that question because I think it paints a false picture. What the declaration is about.
I'm not sure I understand. What false picture that you're rejecting? Exactly?
Well, the question assumes that when we deal with resource development, when we deal with issues that touch on the rights of Indigenous peoples, that we have the government and Indigenous peoples working in opposition to one another. The entire purpose of the concept of free, prior and informed consent is to establish a process where we're actually working together in a common interest to serve the interests, certainly of Canada, but also to protect and respect the rights of Indigenous people.
Who asked you to apologize?
Nobody.
Did you apologize to the National Chief?
I did, and I told her that I would do so publicly soon as well. And this is completely on my own initiative. I've not been asked to do this by anyone. She said that she would appreciate if I would offer some clarity, but this is not coming from anyone within government. This is something I feel compelled to do. I have come into a position that I think is essential in the process of respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples, and I wanted to make sure that not just Chief Woodhouse, but Indigenous leaders, Indigenous people across this country know that my desire and the Government of Canada's desire is to move forward on a relationship.
What specifically was the National Chief's issue with your comments?
Well, look, I'm not going to speak for the National Chief. I think you can put that question to her.
What specifically did you apologize for in your comments? Like, what did you say that you think, shouldn't have said that?
Well, I think it was the discussion that I had with Tonda yesterday, and though the bulk of the conversation was about the need to work in partnership and to respect the rights of Indigenous peoples, I think even accepting the premise of the question that was put to me really made people feel like there may be an attempt by the government to work unilaterally.
Was it your use of the language veto?
Can you talk about your new border bill? It's stripping away migrants' rights to due process. It's disallowing them from making asylum claims if they've been in the country for over a year. Why are you taking this approach?
Well, there is procedural opportunities for people, including the opportunity to have a pre-removal risk assessment. We went through the bill to make sure that we have the tools that are necessary to protect the integrity of the border, also to protect the rights of Canadians and to be in compliance with the Charter, while at the same time strengthening the border when it comes to a number of different issues, including the asylum.
As the Justice Minister, you know that your courts are already back backlog when it comes to immigration cases specifically. So aren't you just kicking this problem somewhere else if you are viewing it as a problem?
Well, I think there's certainly efficiencies that we need to work on in the processing side of things too, but I would disagree with the idea that that would be a reason not to address one issue because it may create other issues. We need to be able to do two things at once, including strengthening the integrity of the border, but at the same time addressing the processing challenges.
I gotta go and I don't want to be.
MacKinnon, bonjour. Comment est-ce que vous allez remporter ce vote de confiance ce soir? Est-ce que c'est avec l'appui d'un autre parti ou parce qu'il y aura moins de députés d'ailleurs?
Je suis... j'ignore, il faudra demander aux autres partis quelle est leur position, mais nous sommes confiants que le discours du trône va être
Avez-vous l'appui d'un autre parti? Avez-vous l'appui d'un autre parti?
Encore, il faudra demander aux autres partis.
Vous voulez pas nous le dire?
Je ne parle pas au nom des autres partis. Ils sont très capables de parler pour eux-mêmes. Because I think we have an exciting, ambitious agenda for Canada, and although we are in a minority parliament, we believe we have a mandate to deliver on our program for Canadians.
Par rapport au pipeline, est-ce qu'il y a au moins un promoteur qui a signifié un peu d'intérêt pour en construire au Canada?
Monsieur Trépanier, vous saurez qu'il y a bien des ministres meilleurs que moi pour poser des pour.
Vous voulez que ça soit adopté quand?
La
loi sur les grands projets, c'est attendu.
Oh, oui. On va déposer le projet de loi, on va en débattre. Et on
l'air de
verra.
êtes-vous surpris
qu'il y ait autant de conversations au Québec en particulier? Là? Vous êtes député du
Moi, je sens là. Moi, je pense. Ce que j'entends, c'est qu'il faut saisir le moment. On a des grands projets d'envergure nationale. Les gens sont impatients qu'il y ait un processus clair pour entamer ces travaux-là et aboutir. Et donc, moi, je suis très, très confiant que ça va aller chercher un appui assez substantiel de la part des Canadiens. Mais le premier ministre a parlé des grands critères qu'on va utiliser pour évaluer ces choses-là et nous allons suivre ça rigoureusement.
M. MacKinnon, ce projet de loi-là?
Vous verrez.
Adopté pour la
On part en vacances.
La Saint-Jean ce serait une excellente occasion, effectivement, de célébrer le passage d'un beau projet de loi comme ça.
Un pipeline au Québec. Hier, vous avez promis de nous parler après, vous n'êtes pas venu. Alors, je vous pose la question aujourd'hui. Un pipeline qui traverserait le Québec, y êtes-vous favorable de manière générale?
Écoutez, les discussions commencent sur ces questions-là. Vous avez entendu ce que le premier ministre Carney...
Vous pourriez y être favorable ou pas?
Le premier ministre Carney a dit que pour qu'un projet comme ça puisse se faire, il faudrait qu'il y ait de l'acceptabilité sociale.
Donc, s'il y en a, vous êtes favorable?
C'est pas ce que j'ai dit, c'est ce que le premier ministre a dit. Merci.
J'ai hâte de voir la liste de tous les projets. Je suis excitée parce qu'on doit vraiment bâtir une économie forte. Très, très enthousiaste.
Ça prend un pipeline en ce moment.
On va voir. Merci.
Est-ce que ça prend
When are we going to see committees?
Just stay tuned.
Do you have any indication from any of the opposition parties that they're going to support the throne speech or the NUP on side? Have you talked with them?
I'm going to continue on this theme. I'm going to never speak for the opposition parties. I'm going to ask you to speak to them, and maybe they'll give you the answer.
To them.
I speak to them every day. That also you can assume.
Will the beautiful border bill be studied at a committee?
That won't be the name of it.
Will it be studied at a committee? What committee?
Les tarifs, est-ce qu'on devrait en imposer des tarifs de rétorsion?
Je vais laisser le soin à ma collègue Mélanie Joly de répondre à cette question-là, puis à M. Leblanc aussi qui a eu des conversations. Je sais que pour nous, on n'arrêtera pas les efforts pour défendre les travailleurs, protéger nos industries, puis négocier avec les Américains. C'est que par rapport à la stratégie, je ne suis pas impliqué dans les négociations, c'est que je préfère laisser le soin à mes collègues de répondre.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.